Today we shall see the second part of exception handling, and we will cover the throw statement which is used to throw an exception, the custom exception part today. In the last class we saw the try catch finally option and method without exception and with exception. In this class we will see two more methods which deal with the two options which I told earlier, and method with specific exception. This method uses the throw statement. The throw statement is used to throw any type of exception, either inbuilt exception or a custom exception. Here we are using to throw a custom exception. Index out of range exception happens when an array index goes out of the maximum limit or maximum range. So we are throwing index out of range exception. We are printing a line before the exception. We are printing a line after the exception, and this statement won't be called, as once the exception happens the control gets transferred to the cache block. For specific exceptions, if you give the exception name in the cache, that cache block will get called. If no matching exception is there, then the stack trace will go to the exception method, which is a parent of all the exceptions. So while I run this method, this line will get printed, then the exception will be thrown, then the control will go to the catch part, which has the index out of range exception as a catch, and finally will get printed. And the second method is a custom exception. For this we create a class, exception class called no such employee exception. We have one more class called employee. It has employee ID, employee name, and employee skill. Whatever exception you write, all custom exceptions should inherit the exception base class. So we are inheriting the exception base class and writing a custom exception named no such employee exception. Here the constructor uses the base class constructor, that is the exception class, and it passes the string dot format no such exception to the constructor, and that will get printed when this method is getting called or when an instantiation is created for the no such exception class. So we have an employee class and we have a no such exception class, and in the custom exception method, we are passing an employee name, and we have an array of string of employees, Ram, Shiva, Allah, and Jesus, and we have a boolean variable set as true. And then we can say the try block. We are looping through the employees string array with the for each loop. It checks for each and every employee in the employees array, and if it contains the employee, it sets as a status as false. This objective of this method is to use the no such employee exception. So we are doing so. So if it becomes false, then it means the employee is not there. So this statement will execute it when it becomes true, that is when the list of available names is not matching with the one we pass. So on that situation we throw new no such employee exception, and from the main method we are calling method specific exception and method custom exception by passing the string Krishna. the string Krishna employee name is not available in the list, so it will throw the no such exception, no such employee exception. I am running this method now. First, the method specific exception will get called. If you look into that, as I mentioned earlier, the first line is getting printed. I am from the try block before exception is getting printed. Then this exception is called index out of range exception caught. This is from the cache block. And the finally statement, I am from finally, is getting printed. This line is not getting printed as I mentioned earlier, as it is after the exception statement. And a generic real-time example for index out of range exception is given below in the commented lines. We have an array of days 1 to 7, and I am calling console.println days of 10. The maximum limit is up to this 7. I am calling 10. So that will be a real-time example of index out of range exception. And then method custom exception. The method custom exception, we are throwing no such employee exception, as we are passing the name Krishna, which is not available in the list. So exception no such employee is being called, and then the finally statement is printed. Hope this is clear and pretty straightforward. Thanks for watching.